Hello, everyone. Ladislas Maurice of the Wandering Investor. So today I'm with Macarena, my immigration agent in Uruguay that I met last time I was there. And today we're going to make a little video to address some misconceptions about Uruguay. Macarena, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Yes, yes. So what we're seeing now is people are increasingly leaving the West, Europe typically because they're worried about the direction of Europe, the energy crisis, immigration issues, Canadians because they're not happy with their liberal government, Americans because they're not happy with Trump. And oftentimes when people Google places to move to or ChatGPT places to move to in Latin America, Uruguay is often one of those top destinations. But I feel that a lot of people misunderstand Uruguay, move to Uruguay with the wrong expectations. So Macarena, you've helped hundreds of people over the years move to Uruguay, correct?
Yeah, I have been in this business for more than 15 years. Now I can say that Uruguay is on the map. So people are interested in coming here, in visiting here. So for me, it's like, wow, now Uruguay is a well-known country. 20 years ago, I went to US. I lived there for 1 year. And people ask me, where are you from? And I said, I am from Uruguay. Uruguay? Africa? Is it in Africa? Is it in Asia? So nobody knew about Uruguay. And now I think we are on the map. Everybody is, looking for Uruguay, a place to live, a place to stay here, to visit. So I'm glad to be here and speak about my wonderful country.
Cool.
Um, I would not say Uruguay is conservative. If I have to describe Uruguay, I would say that is a small, stable country in South America. It offers personal freedom, low corruption, and peace. It is a country that values personal liberty, social tolerance, and strong public institutions. You were here last year, so I don't know what was your impression about Uruguay.
A few impressions. One, it's definitely for people that want a calm life, which is fine because generally speaking, people who move to Uruguay do have that perception. I think the biggest gap in perception that I see is people thinking that Uruguay is a conservative escape plan. It's not. When you go to Uruguay, you'll see LGBT flags everywhere. The political system is also quite unique in that people are very aligned and very centrist as a nation. There's barely any difference between the political parties. So people that flee, for example, Canada or Europe because they want something conservative and traditional values, etc., they'll find some aspects of this in Uruguay, but not all of it. And I think this is the core discussion that we should have, because in many ways, I feel that Uruguay is a better plan for liberals, actually, that are looking to leave the US right now.
Yeah, actually, it ranks high in Latin America for freedom of press, freedom of speech, and protection of individual rights under the law. So I wouldn't say it is conservative. I would say it is liberal compared to our neighbors, compared to other Latin American countries. In 2013, Uruguay legalized same-sex marriage. So it is a regional leader in LGBT rights. I think it was in 2012, abortion was legalized, which I believe is progressive compared, for example, from Argentina, from Brazil, okay, to our neighbors. In 2013, Uruguay became the first country in the world that fully legalized cannabis. Citizens can grow their own plants or buy cannabis at pharmacies. So if I have to say, okay, Uruguay is conservative, no, I don't think so.
What about gun rights?
Uruguay have the rights to own arms. They only require a license, which is simple to get it. You have to go through a course, and that's it. It is not, very complicated to have a gun here.
So you see, and this is where I think Uruguay is quite unique, right? Because on the one hand, you described a lot of individual rights that are typically very left-leaning, but then you talk about gun rights, and it's pretty easy to get a gun.
Yeah, it is pretty easy.
So I find that a lot of the misconception that one finds on Uruguay online is because people just focus on what they're into. So conservatives will talk about all the beef and the farms and the gun rights and safe haven, far away from all the drama, etc. And then liberals will talk about the individual rights, the gay rights, etc., etc.
So
So
to have both, So
There's a bit of both.
yeah, because you have liberal because of the LGBT rights, okay, but on the other hand, you have the other options. So I don't know if I would say options, but you have the other Uruguay, okay, maybe more conservative, but with liberal aspects as well.
And then again, that political system, which is extremely centrist in nature and where people are very much aligned as a nation. So an interesting case study is what happened in Uruguay during COVID. How did people react? Were there restrictions? What was the vaccination rate?
I think that Uruguay handled the COVID pretty well. We didn't have lockdown at the beginning, and government acted quickly. Maybe it was in May, we had all people could get the COVID shot. It was not mandatory, but most of the people, wanted to be vaccinated against COVID.
So I think what's again interesting here is people could make their own choices.
Yeah,
Um, but most people, again, listen to what the government was saying. So again, it's this interesting mix of, in many ways, I'd say almost left libertarian in many respects is how one could describe Uruguay. And tell us about the tax system. Because again, we're talking about a country that has a fair amount of government. People respect the government. People care about their government. All right, it's rare. People care about their government.
Uruguay is considered one of the most stable democracy in Latin America. So I think that people respect the government, respect the democracy. So that is a pretty good value for Uruguayans and for people that come here and see that people here respect government, respect democracy.
So tell us about some of the tax incentives that new residents can get when they move to Uruguay. So your clients, for example.
Uruguay offers a tax-friendly environment for foreigners, particularly those with international income. Non-residents tax at a flat rate between 7 to 12% on Uruguayan source income, but no wealth tax, no inheritance tax, and no capital gains tax on most foreign income. So if you apply for tax residency, you can benefit from up to 10 years of income exceptions on foreign incomes. So you have like a tax holiday, okay, which is, I think it is pretty good for everyone. So you apply for tax residency and you have like 10 years with no taxation, okay? That is good, reason just to come here and live here if you want and apply for tax residency.
Yeah, it's again interesting. And there are multiple derivatives of this. There are other tax incentives, others they last longer, etc. But the whole point is, again, Uruguay is quite unique. You've got all these, let's call them social rights.
Yeah,
Typically, countries with strong social rights like this are typically more left-leaning and have higher taxes. So the type of people that want this, typically they go to places like Portugal, like Spain, like France,
yeah.
or the UK, and they end up paying a lot of taxes. Uruguay is a bit unique in the sense that you still get that, but you can essentially get away with paying barely any taxes for a decade. And even then, even after some of these expire, it's still pretty reasonable. The taxes aren't too high. So it's
Yeah, I think
very,
that tax holiday is pretty good for everyone. Okay, so if they are interested in applying for tax residency, they can speak with an accountant here in Uruguay that can give a more detail about tax residency, a more detail.
which you
Yeah,
have on your team, right?
yeah, of course I have.
Yeah.
Okay, he can explain, tax residency in more detail. Uruguay, it's a friendly, it's a tax-friendly country.
Cool. So tell us about the how to obtain residency in Uruguay with the understanding, like in most of Latin America, that this applies to people of developed countries, or South Africa. So how do people go? Let's say I'm sitting in Boston. I'm unhappy with the Trump administration. I want to go to a place where I feel my values are more aligned. I choose Uruguay. I'm John. Hello. I contact you, Macarena. I say, hey, I'm John. I want to move over to Uruguay with my partner. How does it work? What's the process? What paperwork is required? What are the timelines?
This is my expertise, and I'm going to speak about legal residency in Uruguay. You contact me, first of all, I'm going to speak about the requirements, okay, to apply for residency in Uruguay. You need birth certificate, marriage certificate if you are married, clean police record, proof of income, medical checkup, and spend time in the country. If you contact me and say, okay, these are the requirements, but you can apply for residency just with your passport and get an Uruguayan ID card right away. So the first day you come, you can apply for residency and get an Uruguayan ID card.
Which is valid how long?
Valid for 2 years. This is the Uruguayan ID card called Cédula, okay? This is valid for 2 years, and it is a temporary one from the moment you apply for residency. Then you need to file the rest of the documents that I mentioned before, okay? And your residency will be granted in about 1 year.
Okay. And during that time, during that 1 year, must I stay in Uruguay?
Yeah. The idea is just to show the authorities that you have the intention to reside in Uruguay, that Uruguay is your second home. You don't need to be here most of the time, but at least 4 to 6 months during the process.
I think this is important. It makes Uruguay not a great plan B, right? Because you actually have to spend time to be able to get your permanent residency effectively. So let's say I move to Uruguay, I'm John, I'm there with my partner. I come through, you get me that 2-year ID card pretty much immediately within a few weeks. I just have my passport, I gather all my other documents, I hand them in within a year, I spend the 4 to 6 months, I get the permanent residency. How much time do I have to stay in Uruguay to keep the permanent residency active?
You will lose your permanent residency if you stayed out of the country for more than 3 years, okay? Cool. So the idea just, if you apply for residency and your residency is approved during this year, and then you can, of course, go back to your country, do whatever you want, okay? But at least next year or the following year, you need to visit Uruguay so you can lose your legal status.
Yeah, so it does work as a plan B once you've spent enough time on the ground, at least essentially 4 to 6 months, a year, a half a year, in Uruguay and received it. So it's a bit of a sacrifice initially, but then you have a very high quality plan B, which in many respects is more respected internationally with banking, all of that, than giving a Paraguayan cedula or a Panamanian cedula. So Uruguay from that point of view is good. It's got very good banking as well. Again, better than
Panama. And you can travel, sorry for interrupt you, and you can travel to Mercosur countries with your Uruguayan ID card. You don't need the passport, okay? So I think it's good to use it to travel, in the Mercosur countries.
And what about, because there's a lot of rumors online, people saying, oh, to get Uruguayan residency, you need a COVID vaccination certificate. Can you address this concern?
No, you don't need a COVID vaccination certificate. As I said before, COVID vaccination was not mandatory. What we need is tetanus vaccination. It's the only required vaccination that the government asks to apply for residency.
Okay, so just get a tetanus shot back home or in Uruguay or wherever. They're not too hard to obtain.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go.
The tetanus vaccination is valid for 10 years. Okay, so, it's the only requirement for the residency, tetanus vaccination.
Cool. Okay, fascinating. Yeah, I wanted to make really this video because, again, like I said earlier, too many people have a wrong perception of what Uruguay really stands for from a values point of view. And I hope that this video will help some people make the right decision, because one of the most expensive things one can do when going international is choosing the wrong destination. And I come across a lot of people, they're like, oh, should I go to Uruguay or should I go to Paraguay? People shouldn't hesitate between the two. The two have practically nothing in common apart from speaking Spanish. That's pretty much it. And being close to Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah, I would say that we are an European country with high quality of life compared to Paraguay. Okay, yeah. I think here it is easy to blend in because everybody looks like me, like you. Okay, we are European. Paraguay, it's not the same.
Worlds apart. And then what's also to go back into the odd value system of, or not odd, but unique value system of Uruguay is in spite of all these liberal left-leaning values when it comes to immigration, Uruguay is liberal just for one part of the world. But someone from, let's say, India or North Africa with essentially the same qualifications, same paperwork, same everything as someone from the US or someone from Western Europe will most likely get rejected, even though the paperwork is essentially the same. So there's that aspect as well where it's liberal from an immigration point of view, but not so much. And it's targeted in terms of its liberalism, in terms of who it lets in. So again, a unique blend for Uruguay.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, fantastic. So look, if you're interested in finding out more about obtaining residency in Uruguay, and if you want to get in touch with Macarena, there's a link below with a lot more information and also the contact form for Macarena.
Okay, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing more people here, coming here, visiting us, and enjoy our wonderful country.
Thank you, Macarena.
Okay, bye-bye.
Make sure to download my free ebook, 12 Mistakes to Avoid When Investing in International Real Estate, which you can find on my website, linked below. And feel free to follow me on Instagram @TheWandering Investor. I look forward to hearing from you.